So I was just here getting ready to record 3 videos for my other channel when I saw a message pop up on my phone, and it was a comment on this channel where someone said, I really admire you as a mother, or I love that you spend so much time with your son, or something like that. But what if I told you I'm trying to make up for the biggest regret of my life? And I said to myself, you know what? This channel is about answering questions or, responding to different things. So while getting ready, let me share not why I spend so much time with my son, because it's not like I'm justifying it, but one of the reasons I make an extra effort to spend as much time with him as possible. So with the camera set up, I'm gonna keep getting ready and we're gonna talk about this a little bit more. I don't have the time nor the presence of mind while talking about a topic that to me is this important to explain makeup and all of that. That's not what this video is about, but I'm gonna try to get ready because I don't have a lot of time. So this is not spending time with my son, and for those who don't know, he's my only biological child. I do have a stepson through marriage that is like a son to me as well, but I had my son when I was 17, about to turn 18. He and his dad and I, or his dad and me, we were actually in college together. We met, we fell in love, and he was the product of a relationship that actually lasted for over 10 years, over a decade. So we were together until I was about 27 years old, yes. So we had my son at a time when both of us didn't even know how to properly take care of ourselves, because he was also 17. We were both the same age. Actually, he's born in August, so he was 18 and I was turning 18 that October, and my son is born in September. So we were almost the same age. And you can imagine teenagers who barely know how to take care of themselves having a child. But one of the things I was gonna make sure of was that because of our decision to bring our child into the world, he was not gonna be lacking of anything that a child who is brought into the world in a structured nuclear family with parents who are old enough to understand themselves, not to mention to understand kids, that he wasn't gonna be short of anything. So I made it my life's, I would say my biggest why, to make sure my son had an amazing life. And because of that, you know what? I had to take my career very seriously. So after working for close to minimum wage for a year at a particular job, and this is all in my book, No Regrets, Just Lessons, but after working for a while, I decided to go back to school because I realized I couldn't get promoted in that organization without qualification. So I decided to go back to college, and I did, graduated top of my class and everything, and I came back to the workforce, to the same place I was working actually, with a vengeance, because I wanted to get one of those top jobs. And back then it was only expatriates that occupied management positions, but I wanted their jobs nevertheless. And I had seen the pay in accounting, because I worked in accounting when I was there before. I had seen that they made back then, believe it or not, their rent check alone was $3,000 US, not to mention the pay on top of that. So it would get me to a compensation package of over 6 figures, and this is US dollars, here in Jamaica, working for a US company. So that's what I wanted for myself, because I was gonna provide for my son. But let me tell you some of the consequences of being very career focused. And people like to talk about work-life balance. Let me just explain something to you. There is absolutely no way for you to achieve work-life balance when you're pursuing your goals, because everything in this life worth fighting for is going to unbalance your life. What you have to realize, however, is that this is temporary, or this is something you're going to do during a limited time. And afterwards, you're going to be able to enjoy what you have worked so hard for. So that was always my plan. And this is why I knew that at age 25, I was going to retire at age 45, because I was starting at age 20, and I knew that 20 years of this kind of aggressive work that I was planning to lay down would have basically nearly killed me. So I was prepared to walk away and just give it that time. So it was going to unbalance my life. Now, thank God I had an amazing support system. And this was in the form of my son's grandmother by his father's side. So his paternal. So his paternal grandmother, meaning his father's mother. And she, of course, and her son, which is my son's father, being an only child, she was extremely excited about her grandson. But this was after she discovered that we were keeping it a secret for almost 6 months, living in her house, or probably about four or 5 months, living in her house while she was working overseas. And, when she found out and I delivered, she decided to move home full time to take care of her grandson. And in my book, I call her my fairy godmother, because this woman came to my rescue in so many ways. Anyway, I had a great support system between my fairy godmother, or my son's paternal grandmother, my own mother, my aunt, who is always there for me in every way. I didn't have a shortage of people to take care of my son when I was busy at work. But I lived most of his younger years with his paternal grandmother. And again, she was retired. She's in the medical profession. So as a caregiver, she was the ideal person in my opinion. So I felt as a matter of fact, my son got so close to her that he called her mommy. I felt no sense of guilt or anything when I left my son with her. Now, with a US company and in a senior position, because I became a vice president in a US Fortune 500 company at age 25. And at that age, I was in charge of Africa. So I had to be traveling to Ghana regularly. I was in charge of Santo Domingo, several states in the US, or several locations in the US, of course, Jamaica, and at different times in my career, India, I'm missing some of the countries, Colombia, all over the world. And the thing is, I had to travel to these locations because I wasn't a straw boss who just managed from a distance. I had to literally go to these workplaces and, helped my staff there, who were managers and directors, being in the vice president capacity, to achieve their goals for the company, to guide them as best as I can. And like in the case of Kingston, New York, which is upstate New York, when I didn't have a director there and could not find one to hire for over a year, I literally packed up my suitcase every single Monday morning, drove to Sangster's Airport in Montego Bay, flew into JFK, rented a car, and drove 3 or so hours upstate, close to 4 hours upstate to Kingston, New York, run that facility from Monday to Friday, and then come back to Jamaica on Friday so that I could at least see my son for 2 days. Now, between that travel, sometimes when I went to, going to Africa, that's not a week trip. You have to get so many injections and take so many things. Might as well, when you go there, you stay 2 weeks to a month. So I would be gone for much longer. Anyway, the traveling took me away from my son a lot. And I'm not joking when I tell you that I did that for close to 20 years of my life. And those were his formative years. And when I got tired of it was when I left the job I was doing to work for another company that's headquartered in New York. But this time it was more a country head role, so I didn't have to travel as much. So I was all over the place, but I knew and I was comforted by the fact that my son was in good hands with his paternal grandmother. She would take him to school when I'm not there, pick him up. She went to every meeting because remember, she's retired, right? And she actually did very well for herself working between England and the US. So financially, she was okay. She actually made my son, even before I started to make good money, not want for anything. Anyway, all that said, this resulted in me having one of the biggest regrets of my entire life, which is not being able to spend time with my son, especially in his formative years. I missed out so many things. And it's not like today, because his grandmother, he played football or soccer, and he was very good at it. At prep school, he played for his high school as well, which is Cornwall College. And I wasn't there for most of this. And it's not like now where you have technology where I could be on FaceTime and, watching and so on. I have pictures. And I'll pop up some here if I can find them of him playing with his team. But I could not participate the way I wanted to. And that's why there's a part in my book where I talk about how to manage a long distance relationship with your child, because I've figured out many ways to do so from a technological perspective, and it feels like you're actually there. So you can check that out. Nevertheless, today, my son being 30 and I'm close to 50, I'm spending every single waking moment that I possibly can with him. And he has his own life. He has his own friends. The good thing is he works in our family business. So half the time I'm on the road, he's the driver, or sometimes I'm driving. It depends. He doesn't like driving necessarily, so he'll let me drive unless I say, can you drive me? So he's with me most of the time. We're about to launch another business, and I'll soon tell you about it, but it's a luxury business, and we're going to be on the road even more together. So the good thing is, because we work in the same company, a lot of the time we end up spending together. And he does have his friends, they come over, they do things and so on. But whenever I have an opportunity to do so, I spend every single waking moment that I can with him. And my husband does understand, because it doesn't interrupt my time with him or the rest of the family, because they get pulled in to everything that's happening. So when you see me, doing videos at different hotels and he's in the videos and there's nobody else, or me taking him to Vegas for his 30th birthday, like I just did in the videos that I'm popping up here on this channel that I shared, that's me trying to make up for what was one of the biggest regrets of my life. And listen, my book is called No Regrets, Just Lessons. But you have to understand, before it's a lesson, it's a regret. So let's not fool ourselves. There was a time when I wanted to fix it because I regretted it, but now I've been able to learn from it, and I'm committed to making the best of the time that we have left on this earth, spending it together, bonding. But I'm gonna try to make up for the lack of, or the loss of, or the, how do I say this? The time I didn't get to spend with him, especially in his formative years. And for those who have been watching this channel before I even change it up to this, you would have seen I've shared videos in the past where I talked about my son being in the hospital. And I'm not gonna share this story because it's his to tell. So I am just grateful that he's here. He's physically healthy. He's working through things still, but I am gonna make up for every lost moment. So that's the biggest regret of my life, if there was any I could think of. but God has allowed me and given me an opportunity to correct it to a certain extent. I'll never get back those years that I've lost, but you know what? We're forging new memories and they're amazing. And I think this time it's better because I don't have to run after him, which I had to do as a child. He's old enough and mature enough to enjoy all the things that I like, and for me to enjoy all the things that he likes. And most people think we're brothers and sister or husband and wife when we're traveling. Like the other day, everybody thought he was my husband. But it creates for an amazing experience. So if you're like me, who right now must pursue your career to achieve and to create a better life for your kids or your loved ones, yes, you're gonna feel guilt, but you have to decide based on your preferences what's best for you. Because I was able to give my son the life of his dreams because of that career that paid so well. And I was able to not to retire at 45. I was able to retire earlier because I went so hard at age 42. And these days I'm doing what I like, when I like, how I like, and most of it includes him. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got value out of it. I have to go finish getting ready now so I can record my videos later.